I think there maybe was somebody who just comes and watches and just is like hanging out, but doesn't know much about what we do. I was thinking, I wonder what they. You only get bits and pieces. How much it makes sense, but okay, Miguel, I love it. Is everything bullish? Is there anything neutral? I mean, I guess one of those is for sure the calendar, right? Um, Anything else neutral, or is it all directional? And and how's the how's the diversification? Is that across 4 or 5 sectors? Is that concentrated in any one a little bit more? Give me a little breakdown. I love that. That's a great number right there. I still need to process the recording. I feel like I feel like everyone liked what we did last night, breaking down an options analysis in the analyze tab. That it felt like that
Yeah,
resonated.
that was really good.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's kind of what I felt like was people were like, yes, slow down, go slowly, talk about it, point at it.
Now I have to reinterpret it into IBKR.
And how is that? How is that translation? I feel like actually the way I explained it last night should be the best way to help you find the different things. Like, where am I putting my target? Where am I putting my stop? Where am I putting my time frame? How am I adjusting the date, right? Things like that. Because just like any chart, you'll find it eventually if you look around. How do I change time frames? How do I change the candles? How do I change the settings? How do I add in, right? Like, but all chart platforms are different. I mean, I've seen some where it took a while where I'm like, geez, this is not very intuitive. And that's IB. Not always very intuitive, right? And so,
Yeah,
but an option pricing model is always going to have the same variables that we're trying to put in and understand, like, what am I putting in? What is it giving me back? What is it like? I love, Miguel, your questions about time decay were point right on point. Like, how is this going to help me understand what's my daily time loss? What's my time loss over 7 to 10 days? What Because when we look at things like deltas and thetas and vegas, the tendency is to process them one at a time, but that's not how they work, right? A delta doesn't go up and everything else stays the same. If anything changes, everything changes. And so the Greeks are just one snapshot. Here's a picture right now. What the model does is it allows us to say, here's where we are now. Let's look out to a point in the future, 7 to 10 days in the future, if it goes here. And then when we look at that, let me bring it up. This is where I always tell people these PL graphs, profit loss graphs, right? Risk profiles is what it's called here. This is everything I need about it. The entirety of how this option could behave exists on this chart. I know everything that could happen, and I know everything that couldn't happen, right? So if someone's like, hey, if the stock goes out to, let me make this a little cleaner down here. If the stock goes up to 615, could you make $500? No. Not unless something really extraordinary happens. So there is one more variable, right? So here's 615 and here's $500. That is outside the possibility of what could happen. Unless the one thing, so on this here, I have price, that's here at the bottom, and I have time, and that's these two. So you can see that the purple line is today, the black line is expiration. So, right? Could I lose $500 if the price is at $600? No, I can't. Look at where it is. Except there's one more variable, volatility. And on this one, Sandy, and I don't know what it is on IB, it does take, like, if you didn't know, to come over to this little cog right here. They have a couple of cogs in gears, wheels, whatever you call them, settings wheels. They have a couple of these that do so much important stuff that they're like, how come that doesn't get highlighted more? But if you click here, you can see I get this vol adjustment. Now, what would happen? This is a Vega positive trade. So you can see I've got positive 80 Vega. That means that if vol goes up, the whole thing, not just like some people think that the black can't go up. It can. Black and purple can, and only volatility has the ability to impact it. If I start to raise volatility, could I eventually get that trade to get to $500 out there? Well, I mean, no, because it's adjusting it and you can't see it now. But yes, it's well past it now. If the volatility rises, the whole trade gets pumped up. Like you can hand even the zero line is down here at the bottom now because that volatility is rising. But volatility doesn't just rise and the market stays exactly where it is, right? And so, and volatility, could I get to a $500 loss? Yeah, theoretically, if volatility just starts sucking out, and it just keeps sucking out, and it keeps sucking out, the more that volatility sucks out, it could, boom, 500 right there. Is that going to happen? No. So I'm not worried about that, right? So the vol we know is going to be a little more stable. But what I would say is this. Let's go to a... Did the market open yet? Oh, not yet. I guess we should take a real quick peek. I just got chatting. Let's take a quick peek. Futures seemed pretty flat last time I looked at them. Let's see. S&P. Oh, yeah, look at that. You can see we dipped and then popped back. We're right at the minus 0.04. NASDAQ minus 0.1. Dow is up 0.07. Russell's up 0.25. Oil's flat. Gold's up marginally. I'll tell you what. You guys see Bitcoin? My goodness. Let's go look at BTC. Let's get rid of that pink line. And there it is, 100,000 for the first time. I don't know how, like, everyone saw, I guess because of Musk's influence, that this will be a favorable administration for Bitcoin. I don't know. I guess maybe we'll see. Anyone here a Bitcoin trader out of curiosity?
No, not here.
No.
I used to trade in it a little bit. I think I still have a couple $1,000 in a Coinbase account that I just am like, yeah. I felt a little like Buffett back in the when the tech bubble happened and everyone was making a bunch of money and he was just kind of plodding along at his normal rate. He said, I don't trade what I don't know. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's hard enough trying to get this mastered, if you will. Yet, that's a different beast, I think.
I'll tell you what, though, our signals are magnificent signals, though, right? We catch trends, we wait for pullbacks, and good things happen, right? You can see when we talk about like pennants, where it just gives us that hard kick and then a little pullback, and then boom, it's off again. Hopefully, you guys see those types of concepts where it's just like, what do we expect to see when things are moving? And yeah, should be interesting. I bet it turns into a bit of a shark frenzy here. All right, let's go look at the market.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're fine. I think if a hiccup came, I'd sit through most of it. How are you feeling about that, Miguel? A hiccup comes along, shakes a little. You know how people panic. What's your thoughts on a hiccup?
I have very thick skin, and that's my problem. So
Okay.
I let the hiccup ride too, and I have stops.
Think
I let them kiss the stops. I let them go over the stop. My buffer for the stop is probably a little greater than normal.
like you're thinking of it more of like a end of day type of a thought process, where if it plays around in the day, you'll let it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I don't have a problem with
because
that.
more so than lately, it happens where like in the middle of the day it just bounces right back up.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed lately.
Well, let's correlate it, because here's what I'll tell you: thick skin with a good market posture, you'll be fine. I'd like that, because if you're saying to yourself, this is a one market, you're not going to care if you have thick skin. You're going to be like, if a trade starts to go wrong, I bail, because it's a one, right? It's a sideways market. There's not a lot to latch onto. You wouldn't have 11 trades in a one. You'd have 11
Right,
trades in a 6.5, and that's the point, right?
right. Yep.
And that's where what I would say is go back at times where thick skin got you in trouble, and then look at the environment and be like, how would I have scored that? And I bet you'll find, holy shit, I'd be like a two. There's no way I would have traded as aggressively there as I would, right? So
Right.
thick skin is okay, right? Where if it's giving you the ability to process and sort of be like, and if you have the mechanisms, I think, to process and be like, hey, why? It's so funny. I want a coffee mug. So way back, this is way back, probably a year in, maybe two, to my coaching, when I first started coaching. So let's see, my son just turned 1 at the time, and he turned 22 this year. So that's where it was, 21 years ago. 2003 is when I started coaching. And so I was, I hadn't traded that long myself, but I knew about. I mean, I came from a trading desk. I worked on an options desk, so I was trading, and I knew the terminology and I knew everything about it. But I wasn't what I would consider nearly as consistent or whatever else. So I had something happen. I can't remember what. I did something stupid. You know how it is. And I was just so frustrated, and I took a piece of paper and I wrote, "Why are you doing this?" Question mark, exclamation point, like across the whole paper. And I taped it up on the wall right next to my monitor, right? And it was so funny because it like changed things for me. Where what I realized was I'd had rules and I'd break my rules. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna outthink it." Right? The blade of grass is gonna outthink the lawnmower real quickly, and we all know how it turns out. But what was interesting was I would stop and I would be thinking about doing. I'd be ready to take action of some kind, and I'd see my sign, and I would just sort of force myself to verbalize, to be like, "This is why. Why are you doing this? Because I have a signal. Because my rule says to do this. Because right."
Right.
Versus because I'm nervous that I'm gonna lose my profit if I don't take it right now. Because I'm worried that, right. Because when you kind of force yourself to explain, why are you doing this? Like, if I tell people, I want you to imagine I'm standing behind you saying, why are you doing that? So anyways, I don't know if I have it on this computer, but I probably have 20 to 25 pictures that have been sent to me of people who did the same thing. I said, do it. Write yourself a big handwritten note, tape it up, put it next to your monitor, so that anytime you're about, you see it right there. Why are you doing this? So anyway, I was laughing because I said I want to get a coffee mug, my trading mug that just says, "Why are you doing this?" And it's
Mm,
amazing, right? When you actually are like, just those little accountability measures that we put into training, where you're kind of like, hey, I have to be accountable, that if I'm just holding on to this because I don't want to take the loss, that's thick skin hurting us, right? If I'm
right.
holding on because my market posture is a 6.5, because I know markets can hiccup. Because the last thing I want to do is take a loss right before it recovers, because that's what markets do like this. Not always, of course. And here's what I'll tell you, right? Like, there may come a time where you're going to take a step back, because if you were all of a sudden took 3 big nasty losses in a row, you and I are having a different conversation, right? It's,
Mm.
if all of a sudden, if you're like, hey, my trade risk is set at 500, and I just took a $900 loss, $1,100 loss, and an $800 loss, I'd be like, yeah, we've got problems we have to talk about. We can't have losses, right, that are 60, 80, 100% bigger than they're supposed to be. We can't. Does that make sense, right? And that's where
Yeah.
this what we do is not going to always be exactly what we do. The way we do stops, positions, there are things that we do a little tighter or a little looser based on posture, based on a lot of different things. I read a stat once that said a space shuttle is off course 90% of the time when it's in space. I was like, what? That's crazy. Excuse me. There are 150 people in Houston monitoring this thing, right? How is that possible? But if you think about it, you're pointing at something. Imagine when you're driving, right? You're on a straight road. Your hand is not just fixed on the wheel. You're a little left, a little right, a little left, a little right. You're constantly just making little adjustments to keep it straight, right? You're on a straight road, and all of a sudden I pop up from the back seat, put my hands over your eyes. You're not going to be like, hey, it's a straight road, I'll be fine. Because you know that the second you lose your bearing and then you're oriented the wrong way, that's it. You're in a ditch. I think it's the same with trading, right? And so for us, it's like, how are we making those little adjustments? Well, we're going to fine tune based on a couple of things: the market and our posture and our results and what we see in our record keeping, right? Those are the two things that orient us, our feedback. We have our feedback from our trading. We have our feedback from what the market's telling us. We put that into the pot and we say, all right, and I'll tell you what, I feel like if that's what we do, it's the same thing as find a bull market and buy the dips. It's like, hey, right now it's bullish. We don't know if it could be for 6 months. It could be for 2 months. It could be for a year. I'm going to trade it until I start to see signs it's weakening, and then I'm going to ease up, and there it is. So, no, I think I love it. It's a good discussion. I hope that's,
Yeah.
on point with where we are right now. All right, so we're 8 minutes in. You can see pretty flat. Let's get an opening range. So buyers came in pretty heavy. Sellers now a little back and forth as we expect. Yeah, I look at this and I still think there could be one more trade coming today. I think I'm going to start popping through the watch list.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I think the one thing maybe in the near future we could probably go over is the different types of ways we can do stops in Thinkorswim.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way I do it, I use the active trader, and because I'm able to adjust it,
Okay.
like the slider. And but sometimes that changes on the actual chart. It moves around. So
Okay.
I know I asked Glenn yesterday about a question about what's his strategy for when you're 200% into a trade, because I have a stock trade that I'm managing right now, and I want IonQ, and I want to trim. I want to trim where it's a risk-free trade, and I'm gonna just let the rest ride, right? So I wanted to hear his input, like how much he trims, half of it, or for me is just as long as I pull out what the initial risk was plus extra profit, and then just let the remainder ride, and that's just riding, catching dividends and moving. This is a stock, of course,
Right.
not an option.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, just do a trailing stop. And I'm like, okay. I've done a trailing stop before on the paper trading, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, trail stops are tough because it's like you've got it's very rigid and I like things to be very fluid. You know what I mean? Like and not
Right.
like it's just like what I don't like is for me a trail stop is like I'm done, but this thing could keep going, so I'm gonna put a pretty tight trail stop where it's like,
So
hey,
does
if I
the
could
trail
get a
stops only go in one direction?
what's that?
Do they only go in one
Only one
direction?
direction. So if I put a trail stop 50 cents away, that's it. So if the stock's at and that's why so if I put a trail stop 50 cents away, I need to know I can get at least $1 more in order for that to continue to make sense, right? Because
You have to watch
it's gonna
carefully.
it's gonna lock in, and so yes, that's the hard part. Is it's to me that's not like a hey, let's see what this can do because I own the stock, right?
Right.
Because a trail stop, if the stock goes up like this, the trail stop is moving, and then when this thing takes a breath, you're picked off, and then it just goes again. That trail stops don't allow for a trend, and that's kind of what you're doing with what you're holding on to, right? It becomes less of a trade per se because you're just saying, hey, it's right. I mean, you tell me, am I on point? Like, or are you thinking, nah, I'm only looking for like the next 7 days?
No, I mean, right now, Ion Q is at its all time high. So I've had it for a while. It was at 10. I bought it at 10.25. I don't know, back in June. Now it's like at 30, 32. It dipped like what,
For
three
sure. I mean,
percent?
I have it up on the chart. You can see now, like, if this is the same conversation that a lot of people and you maybe even you yourself had when it was at 17 and a half the first time, right?
Right. Hmm.
And that's what's hard on a shark frenzy. So technically, if you're a Elliott wave, it's had 3 waves. You got 1 wave right here, 2 wave right here, 3 wave right here, and they're going to expect 2 waves back down. It's an interesting thing, Elliott wave. I mean, you can see it's gone parabolic, right?
Right.
1, 2, 3. Like that angle is. I mean, it's turned into it's gone parabolic, and so thinking about taking some profit, I think makes sense. Would you add? Let's say you took some and it fell back down to 25 and turned. Would you add, or were you thinking, you know what? Once I've locked this in, and I'm gonna leave it. Here's the hard thing because
Yes.
if it comes up like this, boom, then you're thinking that's wave 1 down, and then that's wave 2 down, right? If you're an Elliott wave type person.
Hmm.
And these are going to be big waves. Like when I say the term shark frenzy, it's these types of parabolic moves that shark frenzy up and shark frenzy back down. And we both know you do not want to let it shark frenzy back down. Right?
Right.
So that's what I would be thinking. But I don't think you're going to be able to manage that with a stop per se. I think you got to manage that with like a strategy. What am I looking for? How am I looking for it? Where would I do? I think you have to do a few what ifs because, yeah, a stop on something like this, it's hard as shit, man. I mean, let's just be honest. It moves fast. It moves big. Where do we put a stop and not get potentially yanked out? And so if you're going to get potentially yanked out, then you look at, well, if I'm going to get yanked out anywhere, I mean, where would we put it, right? Like, down here, if you're willing to do that, you're now risking 6 points, 7 points. So if we maintain 2-1 to risk 7, you need 14 more. Do we think this is going on up to 48? I mean, no, but I wouldn't have thought at 16 that it was going to 33 either. So what the hell do I know, right? So that's the problem. It's a shark frenzy. Like things go crazy with this. So you're just kind of in a tight spot. If you're going to be in a tight spot, it's best to be in a tight spot with nice profit built into the trade. So,
Yeah.
right? That's what I
I
would
just
say.
sold. I just sold half of it, and this is a risk-free trade that
Uh-huh.
has a lot of profit. So
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Don't. What I would say is, you know, it's fine through here, but this is where you're gonna be careful after that.
Like not try to get caught like buying into it.
Yeah, or if you do buy into this, definitely make sure that that position is controlled and the rest of the position is still making money on the out. Does that make sense?
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, and my philosophy would be much different. I'm going to change colors. My philosophy would be much different here than it is now because like that's a whole new thought process where you've got a new set of obstacles right up here at this resistance that if it doesn't get there, you're like, oh, I don't like that at all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So anyway, no, I feel like trying to find a stop strategy on that. That's just hard. There's no. It's such a unique scenario that I think it's better to just kind of be thinking strategically and what are the various things that I might face? How would I encounter? How would I make an adjustment? And I think you did the right thing. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, yeah, no windfalls. I don't think people account for windfall trades. I mean, you heard us the other day when we had one after the election. It's like, hey, we've got windfall profits. What do we do with that? Don't piss it away. That's for sure, right? Like,
Great work, Miguel.
Yes.
Market's looking pretty good. Let's take a look at some positions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. This.
Fastenal's looking pretty good today.
I was already in Fastenal.
Nice. KKR
Yeah.
is looking pretty good still. Yeah. Cisco's doing its thing. I got no complaints. Oh, you guys smell that? That's a trade brewing on PLTR. Feel it coming.
Uh.
It passed me a note. It said, "Be ready." I don't know what it means. I'm like, all right. What else? Anything? That's the. I think PLTR is. That's one I might anticipatory. Anybody else have one they're thinking about for today?
Um. You know. I was gonna shoot you. This last week has been. I've been really busy and I haven't been in front of the computer much. But IBM.
Did I throw it off the list and now it's going to tell me I
I
shouldn't have done
think.
it?
Look at it.
How bad?
I almost got into it. It's like the day you threw it off.
It did hold, didn't it?
Yeah, and then it just took off.
I'm putting it back on.
Look at that. Double top. I mean double bottom.
Yeah, I wouldn't have traded that. I know I wouldn't have. I would have thought about
Oh,
it like you probably did. But now that it took this out, then it's done its job. Now we just need this, and we're ready to try for it again. I agree. That's so funny, Miguel. You probably were laughing about it.
I was. I was at the gym looking at it in the jacuzzi with my fellow retirees,
That's funny.
and I was like, IBM. I
Yeah.
think. Um, what's the other one?
Clint says yes to PLTR. I love it, Clint. I'm ready. Oh, Steve took it. Steve W took IBM.
Really
Love it, Steve.
nice.
Steve, you might not know the story, but I'm a product of IBM. My father was a I tell people it's in my safe. It's broken, but I have his IBM Rolex that you get at 25 years that they used to give. So it's got a special place in my heart. NVIDIA. Kind of jiggling a little bit. I was surprised. I thought people would react stronger. I think that's going to break out. I'm looking for it on the next pop. I think it cements the age of AI is really happening. You know.
Yeah, like when I saw that it didn't take off, I I bought Nvidia stock. it's it's going to take off. I mean, everybody's going to buy off of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's funny, Steve. That's so funny. When my dad retired, if you guys didn't see, he said I used to have to wear white shirts too. My dad threw away every white shirt he owned, and he only would wear colored shirts. And he was a pretty conservative religious guy. You know, church every Sunday. And you're supposed to, his church, you know, they were like, you know, about white shirts, and he's like, nope, I'm only wearing, you know, he'd have like a pink or a blue shirt, or that was so funny that you say that, man. You totally know that culture well. So funny.
do you have the pocket protector?
No, he didn't, but he was. It's funny because it was like I still, you know, he'd always have his little overcoat, and he's always in a gray or a blue suit, and it's so different. I'm like, I work in my boxer and some t-shirt at home.
Uh, uh,
Overshare.
Sandy's like, too much information, Scott.
Yes, TMI.
Oh,
Well, mind you, I'm in my.
mornings, Glenn. This is good. I miss little, you know, chit chats. I feel like I sometimes soapbox too much.
Well, with a large group, it's harder
It's so
to,
hard. That's, you
you
know
know.
what's funny, Sandy? I was literally just thinking that. Like, Steven always wants me to. He's like, open the mics, and I'm like, it's so hard to, you know, have that expectation.
Yeah, it's hard to address everybody's questions and answer everyone's conversation.
Once you have more than, I don't know, 6, 7 people, and even right now, Clint's just typing in and Steve's just typing in, and it's working because there's a few of us and a couple typing. But anything beyond this, it just kind of gets into chaos, is what I find. And so, well, let's take advantage of it while we have it. The picks. Sorry, I've been meaning to go take a peek at that. I feel like that is going to potentially roll, and that could. Oh yeah, it's close. So here's where, for me, and people are like, "Well, do you use the body or the shadow?" And I'm like, "Yeah, one or the other." Um, it's hard. Now, body, we're already below it. Shadow, not quite. So we've done some. We haven't taken this out yet either. So I kind of think I'd rather see it down here. Like, this is where I'm feeling. If we see this, what's that number? Let's put a number on it. 1573. Okay, yeah. I'm going to put it at 15. Let's just call it 1570. If we end up down here, I hope that I have another trade on. We'll talk about that this afternoon. I hope I have at least one more trade on. But if we're at this point, I feel like that's pretty solid way to end the week and expect that going into next week. I mean, this is like the market figuring things out, and it's been pretty good. If we actually get a run, I think we'll see something. I don't know. That's my thought. Uh, anyone have any trades that are not going well? Where you're like, hey, I'm kind of shocked. Believe me, I have a great ability sometimes to like pick the one thing that's like, what? How's everything moving except for this? Apple yesterday, right? Apple, everything moved and Apple just kind of sat there. It's like, what? Come on, Apple. Um, anything like that? Anyone have anything that they're frustrated with? Chat about it for a couple of minutes before we wrap it up. Let me know.
I'm
Yeah.
just looking at some kind of unknowns. I've got JCI.
JCI.
Yeah, JCI is in industrials.
Yeah, I mean it's a little behind, but I feel fine. I would feel fine about it. Um, everything's
But it's the
cycles.
only one that's not doing well.
So just kind of waiting, but not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not what would you call it? Alarming.
Yeah, not alarming. I
but
like it.
today's a good trigger for it, right?
I would still look
Based,
at it as a valid entry.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I got it. I took it last night.
Clint said lost audio pop up says
Anticipatory.
I got an internet connection unstable the other day, and it's just kept going. Clint, is it back for you? Okay. Yeah. All right. That's the other thing too. YouTube does have the most stable streaming connection. Anyway. All right. Well, listen. It's great to get to have morning coffee and hang out with you guys, and keep it pretty casual. So thank you for that. Like I thought this was amazing. I had a great time. Is everyone going to be back? And good to see you, Clint. See you this afternoon. I'll see you guys this afternoon for the
Yep.
last hour of the day. We'll hang out and chat about some things and see how this thing goes into the weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's get.
See you
Thank
guys soon.
you.
Okay.
Bye. All.
Thanks. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. We got some snow here.
Ooh,
Fall of the season.
really? That's amazing. I see it on my mountains, but we got some earlier, and a little bit here or there, but right now, nothing. Although I'm like watching because my son has to drive through like the Montana mountains to get down here for Thanksgiving, so
Oh, yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something nasty coming. I'm like, you got to get those passes. I've only been up to Montana once when I drove him up to the first time he went to school. I was like, wow, like we have pretty big mountains in Utah, and there's just some big ones.
Montana's like, yeah, it's crazy up there.
So anyway, how much snow did you get?
Not much. Probably just about an inch right now, but it's still
Yeah.
snowing. So
Okay.
we'll see. I think I'm in Pittsburgh, and then I have family up in Scranton, which is more up like in the Poconos, where it's a little higher elevation. I think
Uh-huh.
they're supposed to get like 6 inches or something. So
Yeah.
pretty good. I think ski resorts up there are excited. Get going.
Yeah.
So,
The
yeah.
the like Pacific Northwest is getting hammered, and we keep wondering if it's gonna come across or just sort of move north. So far, we've escaped it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Because my snowblower is out of commission, I need.
Oh,
So, yeah, anyway. All right. Well, let's do some modular mapping. Okay, so you have both Foundry and Next, correct?
yes.
Okay. Let me get ready here. How's everything
Last
going?
one of the year.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Good. It's like it feels like we were saying yesterday felt like Friday, but it was like last release day of the year. It's
Right.
like Friday of the year kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of relaxed for the rest of the year, which is nice.
It's funny because I almost forgot to map the last article. I was just like, I'm like, oh, I should probably put this up.
Yeah.
Slap it on a playlist. Okay. Sorry, I should have been more ready.
Oh, good. It's like an extra Friday, because I know you're off all next week too. So it's just like gotta get through today. We're home free.
I know, right? It's funny because I come back and I work for 2 weeks and then I'm off for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a weird time of year. It's like in and out.
Let's see, where's next?
That's when you're going to the UK, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, very excited.
Nice. Probably won't have snow there. I don't think it snows too much there.
Yeah, these days they say it doesn't snow that much.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we mapping? The mindset of money and next steps, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, do you want to... Are you logged in? Do you want me to just you want to share your screen and I'll walk you through it? Or what would make it so you are you hands-on and you want to just what's your
Maybe-
preference?
Do you do them? Would you do them like at the same time, or do you do it one at a time?
One at a time. So yeah, let me share my screen and do one and then you could do the other one.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Alright, so here is Foundry. I don't know. See, it does. Here's what happened. Like, I'm in. Like, it has me in Found. No, this is Next. And they're both Next, but it says Foundry. It's so weird how this
Yeah.
works sometimes. Like, the links when I first came on, it took so long for me to be able to get both of these open for some reason. Anyway, let's go to the catalog and let's do the mindset of money. So it's funny because when I first came on, Ricardo, did you work with him when he was still here? He was under Casey, and he helped her with some stuff, but he was really more platform. Anyway, he had me come into Foundry, but Julie's was like, you should go into Next Sandbox. So there's differing information, but I usually just come in here, and when I view it, this is really where I'm just like grabbing stuff to move it over. So over here in Next, you're just going to come over to content, and then you're going to do new content. Do you have the Next documentation? This actually is documented.
No.
I didn't know this. I found this maybe like 18 months after I started. So
Yeah, very helpful.
let me send you the link. Setting up contacts next.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's funny. I was asking Quinn. She's like, "This is all in my documentation. Didn't you read it?" I'm like, "I didn't know you had documentation. Do you want to share?"
You're right.
I'd be happy to read it. Okay. Now, name mindset of money comes across. One of the things we run into, which is a pain in the ass, is the naming nomenclature will be the same from Canadian to standard achieve, but in Next you can't do that, and they're like, oh, just add 2 spaces, and then it's like, it's so weird, some of the stuff we do. So anyways, yeah. Same with slugs. The slug is where it really can be a pain. So the slug, and it's so funny, right? So the slug is the module key here, so I'm going to copy this and bring it over. They're like, this cannot be modified after creation. So it's like this, you feel a little nervous, like, oh.
I know, the slugs are weird.
Description. And then supported locales. If we're doing Canada, it's French Canadian. If we're doing regular, it's Spanish and English. Content service, you just start typing it in until it shows up, and it randomly will show up at a certain point. This one is interesting because we have like old version achieve, new version achieve, and Canadian achieve. So there's times where I'm trying to do this and I'll see 3. And I just have to like randomly pick one, and then I have to go test to see if it worked, and I'm like, oh nope, that grabbed the wrong one. So weird, like it's just such a anyway. But this one is fine because there's only one. The duration's so funny. We put anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes, so whatever. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
And then here's the other thing, and this is maybe a project for you and I. I've got a couple projects for you and I to think about. We need to get. I'm like, I just have always just grabbed like whatever icons are in the thing, and I'll just throw it on there. But it's kind of gotten me in trouble because there's some duplicates and stuff. And so like this icon is what's going to show up. What are we doing? Mindset of money. So, God, I have no idea what I could even search for in here. Let's see what comes up with mindset. Now ours are you know what ours look like, right? And so our icons are these, if I can find one, right, it's got to be the black and white. Not even that. That's a little too black and white. It's a little more grayscale. Yeah, like these,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like those are our icons. I have no idea what would I do for the mindset of money. So I just do the coins. That's fine, right? Until we figure it out.
Yeah. Probably fine.
And that's it. Bam. New content. Okay, so I'm gonna let you do the. Do you want to put this on? Okay, so let's see. We need to put this on something. I'm gonna have to put because I have to like figure out where it is. It's a non-standard playlist, and I always take a while to find it. Here's what I would say. Marie Poole is a great resource. You probably actually want your own test account on Next and Foundry. Not probably, you do. That's what you want. Because like when we have to put things on to get, and I admittedly, so don't, this is just between us, Shannon, but I'll just put it on a playlist and let them smoke test it rather than, because there's never been a problem. It could get me in trouble at some point. Okay, I can live with that.
So far, so good.
So far, so good, you know? And so what I should do is I should put it on my own account and then give that link to Heather to smoke test. And then when she says it's good, then I should go at it. But I just sort of skip a step, and it's worked fine for 2 years. And so I'm just going to keep, doing it my way. But just so you know. But that hasn't worked with the new tools and the new wrap-ups because they don't go on standard playlists. And so it's like I always like find myself like, how did I get there? What the hell did I do? And so I have my own account. Marie helped me set it up, and then she can like help you like, hey, if you need to put this on this playlist instead of this, and I probably should get some time with her again as I think about it. Maybe I'll do that during that 2-week period when things have slowed down before I leave. But put that on your list. Get yourself a full Foundry like account, and then like get time with Marie, and she'll like walk you. She'll be like, hey, Scott said that you would, and she's so great with that. So anyways, that would be helpful. So the next thing we have to do is we have to add this to a playlist. So let's pick a playlist to add this to. I hate our playlists right now. Oh, do you want to come? I mean, it's kind of more platform oriented, but we're having conversations about like, what are we trying to do to now that we can't have New Achieve? What are we going to do to make it so that what we do have is not like this nasty old playlists, new playlists, pathways, like jungle?
Right.
Do you want to come and be a part of that, or is that outside of the scope of content? Because it's really more platform, but it is very.
I mean, I think it could have content implications.
Yeah.
I'm happy to totally sit in.
I just don't want to keep throwing meetings at you if you're already kind of saturated. So you tell me, like, yeah, do it, or I'll just.
I mean, if you want to add, like, you could just add me as optional.
Okay.
If I'm free, I'm happy to come.
Perfect. That'll work. Okay, so now we're going to put this on. We're going to put this on a playlist. Right? And they always come to these three here: financial foundations, building capability, and resilience. And that's. You get to pick.
I mean, I feel like I would probably put it under financial capability because it has like healthy financial habits.
Okay.
It's kind of a similar topic. So.
Done and done. Building financial capability. So these are easy. That's why I do it this way. Because I go find the second page and I find, oh, I guess it's the third page. And here's build, oh my gosh, so many playlists.
Too many building ones.
Building all kinds. Building, oh wait, building financial confidence. Is that what it was? capability. I thought it was capability, but what am I missing? Building.
That's what it says.
Hold on, maybe I missed it. Maybe I didn't go all the way down.
Maybe.
Okay, what am I doing here? This is error, user error. I feel like. No.
Weird.
Yeah, that's very weird. Why would that not be a standard playlist?
Let me check. Demo. Like, I don't know if maybe it's just called something else.
Yeah, maybe I mislabeled it. And it is building financial confidence.
On the demo site, I see one called Building Financial Capability.
Building financial capability.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not. I swear I just added to that one. Oh wait, no, there it is. Shannon, what am I doing today? I'm just trying to confuse you. I hope it helped. Okay, so we found it where it was. We thought we would the first time. That's on me. Sorry about that. The mind
All good.
set of money. Add content. And now I'm going to just take that link and give it to Heather to smoke test. And that's it. It's there. So when we come to building financial capability and we go to page 2, there's our coins, there's our mindset of money, and I can send that to Heather. So it's not as easy because it's not a standard playlist. In fact, I have to create a playlist. You know what? Let's have you map it today and then start the process with Marie. And the week we get back, let's build the playlist together because I haven't done that yet. We don't need it yet.
Right.
So let's just push that, right? Does that work?
Yeah.
So we
The
can
other one is the next steps for the budget.
So the next steps for the budget, but there's nowhere for that to live. We don't have a budget tool yet, so I haven't even built the playlist for that. So let's work on that together because I definitely could use some cleanup on that. So let's maybe spend an hour. I mean, let me turn my screen share off and you can go map it so you get the practice mapping it because we can map it. It can just sit there on next. It doesn't have to go to a playlist. So we can do that now, and then when we get back, let's do the other. So does that work for you? I think we should be able to do that in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds good. You get all logged in here.
I didn't even think gosh, I don't even have somewhere to put that. And we're gonna have more playlists to build.
let me share my screen. I don't know if I have, right, I have content, but I don't have the playlist here. Am I in the wrong spot?
Let me see. Go to, let's see, you're on, this is next. So here, you'll just click new content on that button there. Yep. And you have Foundry open to the right. Yep. And so I forget what we call this. So here you'll go to that search and just
Next step.
next steps should probably bring it up. There you go. And so go to actions and just view content. Yeah. And now you just pull them. You can just pull them one at a time. Pull the name across. So budget, surplus, next steps, and just copy and paste that over. And
this is a next prod, right? Not in Sandbox.
yes, next prod. And then you'll go find the slug in the module key. I feel like this is another thing. Do you keep a list of like our to-dos that I feel like we should touch on descriptions for like.
Yeah.
I feel like articles, one of the things that they got into a habit of is they're like, read this article to learn more. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that's lazy. Maybe we should go back through it and do.
Yeah.
I think we'll have time, you and I, in the spring.
Yeah.
To clean a few things up. Okay, so content service. You're just going to start typing the name. You know. There you go. And I think. What are we saying? 5 on these? Oh, she still has 10? I don't know. That seems super long. Put 5 is fine.
Yeah.
4 or 5. Yeah, right?
Okay, an icon.
Yeah. Honestly, I would just go type budget and see what comes up that you like. And just start scrolling through those and see if there's like a calculator or that plus minus or any of those is fine. Jason, I've mentioned this to Jason that we need to like, revisit icons. So that's on our list. It's on the list. That's it. Save.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
Check.
Yeah.
Okay, looks good.
It's very funny because people are very intimidated by this process. Like a lot, no one knows how to do this. I'm like, oh my god, it's not that much of a big deal. Translations are a pain in the ass, but I got into a habit of doing like 2 or 3 at a time, and then I just couldn't, and I got so mad, and now I have to do them 1 at a time, which is not that big of a deal, but that'll be fun. We'll do that. Maybe we'll do that. Next week too, or the week after as well. I think there's a few things we could probably do when things are pretty slow. Like we can touch on translations.
Yep.
We should probably just like make a list of like, okay, here's some things to just knock out. Anyway, yeah. Any questions? Like it's not. The funny thing is like you don't do it that much, and then you forget. Like, wait, where did I go? And so,
Simple.
yeah. Translations is the same, like where you're like, what did I have to do there again? But it's anyway.
Okay, so when we get back, we'll work on the playlist and
Work on the playlist, building a new playlist, the new pathway, and then
talk about some other housekeeping things.
Yes.
That we can just put on the to-do list.
yes, I have another one too. There was. And this is kind of in line with the work that we were doing with Marianne, the product line stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Anne is like the UX team are so funny. They laugh. But Anne is doing something kind of similar with a deck. Anyway, I'm like, what's the time?
Oh yeah.
Did you see that? Like, I think you may have helped with Jess doing it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I have Jess's representation, and I'm like, what's the timeline? She's like, whenever you can get to it. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
okay. Well, Shannon and I will put our heads together, and so let's
Yeah.
add that to the when we get back list for sure. Okay.
Hands-on information gathering.
I mean, it's funny because as I looked at it, and I'm like, actually, I would love to know all this. So this is great,
Yeah.
but it's just hard to find the time to go dig it all up, So
I know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to some quiet time to
yes,
work on some stuff. So
yeah,
cool.
awesome. Okay, no questions. Everything's good.
No, I think we're good. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
From America.
Yeah.
We do celebrate the Day of the Dead, but it's not like Halloween. We usually light candles in the cemetery and things like that. No trick or treating and no costumes. But we kind of stole. I think it's been about
me just ping Miriam and then we'll get started.
She was around earlier because I chatted with her.
Yeah, I did too. Okay. That, alright. I have too many windows open and it's still early in the day. Alright, I'm going to share my screen. And, okay. Let's see. Andrea, updates, comments, questions.
I do have a small question.
Yes.
I noticed that in the I'm sorry, in the compliance tickets, you're mentioning to also check the next steps and the key points images to make
Yes.
sure that they are up to date. So on the ticket that I'm working on right now, I started updating. I'm going from module to module and checking if the images are up to date. And I noticed that some of them do have the next steps updated, but not the key points.
Okay.
So I started adding the images. I hope it's fine if I do them all on one ticket.
Oh, all on one ticket?
Yeah.
No. I need you to do it with each. What do you mean do it all on one ticket?
On one branch, because I
Oh.
noticed that there are others that have not been mentioned on the tickets that do have this issue, so I'm updating those as well.
Oh, that just probably meant that I accidentally deleted it. So, yes, for every compliance ticket, when you're making the changes to the script, if you can check the next steps and key points and make sure they're the newest, that would be awesome.
Cool. I'm doing that.
Yeah, sorry about that. And I also know I chatted with Miriam. I've been trying to look at the scripts and only give you ones with changes, but she mentioned I gave you two that didn't have changes. So just ping me if I do that again, just so I can keep track. We're working with Scott, Miriam, and I. We're trying to come up with an easier way to put all of this together, so when we do it again next year, it's and we think we have it. But yeah, so Andrea, just let me know. But I definitely am going to be trying to check before I give you anything as well. Yeah.
What I think you could do is still assign those tickets so I could at least check the key points and next steps. If there are no changes in the script, I can still look at the two
Okay.
pages.
All right. Yeah, that's great. That would be awesome. I will do that.
And I can ping Miriam to double check if there are changes or not. Because when I saw those tickets with no comments, I asked Miriam about them because I wasn't sure, maybe I'm not seeing the comments. So that's why I
Yeah.
checked.
No, I'm trying to check every script before I send it to you. So if there are no comments, know that I am double checking on the tracker that Miriam's using too. So, and Celine, I've started to give you. There won't be as many articles, but Andrea did the first one, but I've started to send you the articles, and I will also be sending you some regular Achieve modules too. If you guys run out of tickets before you get additional compliance tickets, then just move to some accessibility.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
It sounds good to me because I have completed the calculator ticket, so I only have comparing tickets that you need their times and also accessibility.
calculator ticket is released. Are you working on it now, or Celine, everything is complete?
We did it together at the last
Okay.
part. After the formula, we shared our screen and we completed together.
Okay. All right. That is amazing. Thank you. Um, Carlos, anything on your end that you wanted? If you have a tools question, you're welcome.
No, all good for now.
Okay.
Working. Yeah, I'm working on wrapping up that second page with the missing tooltips that doing on that one, and then I'm working on the progressive disclosure on the next page. So no questions for now.
Okay. That sounds great. Louise, anything on your end?
No, just I think it's finished, the calculators, and just some tests needed. Everything else is good.
That is amazing. Celine, in just a minute, I think we're gonna have time for you to be able to show the calculator. Let me just, did Miriam pop on?
Yep, I'm here.
You're here? Any updates, comments, questions? Miriam? Can you
No.
guys, no?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that. No comments, questions. I'm good. We discussed what's gonna happen for the next few days, and I'm all set.
Okay, sounds good. So today is Scott and Shannon's last day for a week, and Jason. The three of them are going to be out all next week. We're gonna hold tools and calculators meetings on Monday and Tuesday, and just to check in, and also LX and UX. If anyone has questions, maybe other people on the call will be able to answer. Otherwise, we can hold questions for when the following week after Thanksgiving. And the week after Thanksgiving, probably that Tuesday or Wednesday, Shannon's going to go over the use cases for the calculator, and then we'll do a full internal team QA on the calculator. And I think one more thing, Celine, and then I am going to hand over to you. I don't know if you guys checked full team chat this morning, because I know I haven't been messaging in there, but I just wanted to let you know yesterday was our last release for 2024. So congratulations, you guys. We did so much work this year. It was really amazing. And I just put a little note for everybody in the chat, and I just said, thank you so much to everyone for all your hard and amazing work in 2024. The products you created were outstanding, from beautiful illustrations and animations, thanks to Casey, Catherine, David, and Yang, to superb content, Miriam, we don't know what we would do without you, to excellent and clever product design, Madeline, Jason, and Jeff, and to first-rate well-built courses, and Andrea, Celine, Carlos, and to our brilliant tools and calculators, Carlos, Sanu, Celine, Louise, and our strong and smart leadership, Scott, Jason, Shannon, and Heather. Just want to say thank you. Yay, and give you guys a big hand. Everybody's so quiet. Are you still there?
Yeah. Thank you, Julie, for making sure everything actually gets out in the world.
All right, so Lynn, if you still have a little bit of time, if you want to walk us through the calculator, that would be amazing. And actually, let me just turn on the recorder for this part. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much, Julie. I am sharing my screen and show what we did with Louise.
Lynn, I'm not seeing your screen yet.
Yes, sharing.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Are you able to see it then the thing that we talked in the previous meeting was about the color of these things, and they were white in the previous meeting. We updated it as a black. Also, this text in the middle is updated as black. The percentage is added. Also, tooltip is added for each part of the donut chart. For example, for this one, it is showing essential expenses and giving the correct number for it. And this is the giving number for budget surplus. And this is this is giving number for optional expenses. So these tooltips are added. The color is turned to the black. Also, the color of the total number is updated, and that's, I think, kind of all. Also, we updated updated the formula a little bit. Let me show you something. For example, okay, let's write 5 here, and let's add something like that. And when we click somewhere, it is showing minus sign, and it becomes red. And then text appears here, and there is also popover text here that is showing for budget surplus. But when we update the number here, it becomes black, and this text disappears as expected. Does anybody have any question? Also, I want to say one more thing, sorry about that. Normally, when we have positive value, let me show you. Let me refresh. Okay, when we have a positive value, we have three things in the donut chart: essential expenses, optional expenses, and budget surplus. But when we have minus value here on the chart, only essential and optional expenses are showing here. Actually, we couldn't able to remove the budget surplus from the legends, but it is disappeared from the FX charts. Does anyone have any questions?
No, it's looking great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Alright, Scott or Shannon, anything you want to bring up or anything before, and Jason, before you guys are out?
I don't have anything, but if anyone needs anything from me today, I'll be around. So just let me know.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah.
I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, and also, Julie, I'll be out the Monday following as well.
Well, I don't know, Jason. Thank you for reminding us. Well, you three have great Thanksgiving, and everybody else, we will see you next week. Scott, can you stay just like 2 seconds? Heather, when are you out? I know you're out the week of Christmas. Are you out next week?
I'm here Monday and out the rest of the week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll stay. But Heather, can I call you in about 3 minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving to everyone. Have a great holiday.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye bye.
Nothing was wrong with the release, right?
No. No.
Oh.
We mapped one and I gave it to Heather, and I've got to go put the wrap up module on my personal account so I can give her a link. I don't have a playlist for it yet. In fact, I was talking to Shannon, and I'm like, when we get back, let's make a new playlist because we haven't done it yet for the new pathway. So.
Okay, two things. I don't know if you saw my message yesterday about Ethan. It sounded kind of like he didn't think he was going to have time for Engage.
Yes, I saw that, and so I think I might have Cam do the work. So.
Okay. Do you want me to? Do you want? Or well, you should, because you're more familiar with Engage. Just make sure that all the columns that the account manager. Will he do the work offline and then we'll upload
Yeah.
the final spreadsheet? Okay. Just make sure that he has all the columns that you think the account managers are going to need. But I should probably. Do you want me to? Did I send you the directions? I just did like an overview. I need to kind of get the links together for him. So should I just make a ticket and assign it to you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, because so what it is all of the, I'll be able to give them links to files that have comments as the first word for each workshop. So each workshop has a comments file that had changes, and then he can go on, turn the comments, and see what was changed.
Okay.
He's also going to have to check sources too. If he sees any sources, I don't know if Miriam commented sources. I'll have to ask her. But he may need to look for any sources that say 2025 and add them to the list.
That makes sense.
And then, so I'll get that ticket and give it to you today in case you decide you want him to do something next week. The other thing is, I don't know if you want to, but Casey and Catherine's next day is a week from Friday, and I didn't know if you wanted to I just didn't know if you knew in case. I didn't know whether to get them a car. I just didn't know what to do, but so I haven't done anything. But if you wanted to message them and say thank you or anything,
Okay. I think I'm actually connected with both. I think I'm connected with both of them on LinkedIn too, where I'll say like, "Hey, I'm happy to help any way I can."
Yeah, and you don't have to do it. Like, it's not my business. But since I didn't do anything official, I just wanted to remind you.
Sure, I appreciate it.
We're gonna miss. I mean, even though they weren't on the team calls, they really did nice work.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. So, well, I hope you have a fabulous. I mean, I'm gonna come to the call at the end of the day, but if I don't talk to you, have a fabulous week off.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and have a great Thanksgiving. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, we have the video.
Oh yeah, we have video meeting.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there. Empower calculators.
Okay.
Will you look at this with me to see if you interpret it the same way?
Okay.
I feel like either A, let me grab the ticket. Where's my conversation with Ethan? Like either A, they didn't. So originally we sent them the Centris links, which is like a credit union that uses these. I don't even know how those got around, but I was like, well, we should probably just use the S3s, and I know that's what Ethan attached in the ticket. So then I'm like, well, so I just looked. Sumi put a chat that said they commented, and so I went in the ticket and I looked at their comments, and it's like, it looks like we have more to fix now than the first time. So I'm like, what the hell happened? So I'm like, did they not review it? Did we fix it and they didn't see the right code? Possibly. I'm hopeful because like I'm looking at it, I'm like, it looks like it's worse. Like nothing of the accessibility was fixed, and it looks like there's more comments for issue 1 than there were if you scroll down to the original issue 1. And so I'm like, what?
Yeah, the difference here is that the complaint came from the client versus Magic reviewing the course,
Okay.
right?
Well, so they reviewed it. If you look down below on Monday, I'm assuming that Orokler Ganesh is from Magic because
Right.
they reviewed it and they gave that remediation language,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just reviewed it again. Ethan sent it Wednesday. They reviewed it last night, apparently. And if you look, they just put comments 6 hours ago. And it's exactly the same and worse as the first time. So it's like, did we? I'm not, and Gwen's not here, so I was like, I'm like trying to respond to, like I told them I'm hoping to upload it today. So I'm like, oh shit, like I don't know. So I was gonna reach out to Tasha, like, hey, does it look like we are in a worse spot? But I didn't want to. I wanted maybe you to look to see if it feels the same to you.
I mean, I guess if Magic is saying this isn't fixed and we want to make it right for the client, which I think we're going above and beyond what the client initially requested, right?
Well, I see. That's I can't. I don't see anything from like that first comments on Monday where there's 2 issues, right? Issue 1 is the time span drop down label, but there's something about it, and so they go through, and it's like if you go up, it's still the time span label. It doesn't say it's fixed. It still says it's incorrectly assigned, and it's like, so as I read through it, I'm like, well, issue 2, I don't see that anything is different. Like it doesn't seem like we addressed their recommendations. Then we gave it to them again, and they're like, I does that make sense? Like I just don't see what looks like got touched. And so then I'm like, well, did we not do anything, or did they not see it? I didn't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Just gonna pull up. I don't even know if I can access this repo. Yeah, I don't know, because this is code and it's not one that we dabble in.
sure. Okay, I'm just gonna go to Tasha then. That's fine. I just thought I'd check in with you and just see like if there was something I was missing. But I just like look at these and I feel like either something didn't get looked at right or something didn't get touched right. But it's, like it feels like I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking a peek.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I hate these calculators so much.
I know.
Okay, well tell Ethan thank you for his help as always, and I'm gonna go see if I can't figure this out.
Okay. Sorry. Wish
Nope.
I could help you more.
Appreciate it. See you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
repercussions if they don't? So if they sign in January, is it go higher or? And this is
I
your
think
world,
we
Brianna.
could play a little bit of hardball. I mean, they've asked, like I said, they've emailed twice this week, being like, "Can we see the contract? Can we see the contract?"
They want to get this done. Like, if
Yeah.
I were them, I'd want to lock this in as soon as I can, so they're going to strengthen their position.
Yeah.
For where do we? And again, this is not even an important question, but I'm going to ask it. Where is Mocafy in the projections? Like, do we need Mocafy for Q4?
If we get Mocafy, we'll exceed where we need to for the year, or we'll hit the year. We will exceed the quarter and hit the year.
Okay, to say it another way, without Mocafy, where do we land?
We would need Capital One to hit this year and a couple other like 100K deals. So we can.
I would go with Mocafy. I think Capital One. There's so much risk with Capital One. You know, we haven't even dug into their lawyers yet, so I would get Mocafy done as best as you can.
Okay, product folks, thank you, Scott, for coming. We were trying to paint this visual picture from a Direct Express perspective of rolling Comerica off and rolling on Mocafy. July 1st is the date that we've included in the scope of work for essentially like a kickoff for when we would start or launch the Direct Express program in partnership with Mocafy. Tech-wise, like what does that look like? Are we repurposing Comerica's microsites, like our back-end tech? Like how does that work? And what do the visuals then look like for both Comerica and obviously Mocafy would be brand new. We would launch them as like a brand new customer. I guess my question's more on the Comerica side. Like what does that mean for them? And what does maintenance look like?
Scott, do you have any, I'm sorry, I'm sort of coming into this brand new here, so do you have any context at all? Or is this, because I would have a lot of questions to your question, Eric, but Scott, maybe you can start.
Yeah, as far as like what would the actual technical requirements be, no. I mean, I know that we've been in funny conversations with, Comerica and, Jason talking about what is it that they're trying to do, and as they look at what the maintenance would be, and so I'm not sure what that looks like as far as like what we have to maintain. They were still talking about new content, like we were still talking about. We had a bunch of videos that they had done, and so there was still like, are we doing these? And I'm like, I don't think so. Why would we produce?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm aware of, which Keith and I have been talking about, is just that they were looking to honor some videos that we had intended, or that was part of the 2024 contract rolling into 2025.
Yeah.
I think we said we'll find 50K and make it happen. But that was the gist of my understanding of, like, so I just, again, obviously it's like I don't have any context here for this.
Yeah,
so
we had tried to. So the videos it was an interesting thing because like we had been working on those for literally like 16 months, and there's no progress. We had scripts and. So we're kind of like, well, certainly, and what I said to the CSMs, I said, look, let's just get a dead date and say, if you can get these scripts approved, we'll move forward, but it doesn't make sense for us to keep kicking the can down the road, because we paid the video vendor already once, right? And so...
I'm guessing the delay was like they were uncertain about if they were going to win this RFP renewal, essentially, too.
They couldn't get...
I think everyone's hope was that... Comerica's hope was that they would win the
right.
renewal on this.
Yeah. Yes.
We would just extend with them.
Just to be clear, is that what we're talking? I just want to make sure I understand what your question is, because like that seems like an easier issue, but is that not? What are you asking again? I'm sorry. I just
want to make sure, like, as we shift to launch Mocafy's program, like, what will be left of so if we're going to ask for a year of maintenance, but technically we're launching a brand new program in July. Like, what does maintenance look like after July 1st for Comerica? What are they paying for beyond July?
And I think it's keeping the site up, because what my understanding was October was even though July 1st, but they were kind of expecting the shift in the onboarding to Mocafy was like kicking off more towards the October date. Does that sound right? That's what I thought I saw Jason mention in his verbiage as to like maintaining something until that shift occurs, which he thought was going to be more an October
Right.
date. I could check my email.
No, I think that's right, because I think the traffic will start to flow once Mocha, like, it's not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
So we're not just gonna turn off Comerica, like, they, I'm assuming, want to make sure that it's like a seamless experience from one, program to the next,
Well,
so.
it's super technical, but like the videos that we're creating and like hopefully that we can get approval on. So yeah, so Dan, that's specifically what Rachel's been asking to get the quote elevated to Steve from like $1 so we could shift it to 25 as a budget. But like, are those videos going to be able to be repurposed and utilized by Mocafy?
Sorry, just to be clear about that too. The videos, like we don't get funding for that, right? That's just we're eating into the margins, right? Because like we don't.
Correct.
There's no money in the finished product, so we're effectively saying, which I'm okay with, but we've got to go find 50K somewhere that we don't have. Again, like I would hope we can figure that out. But we're not like we are definitely eating into the margins of that of what they're paying for.
And see, I would say I would be reluctant because the problem was, we couldn't get scripts approved when they had full access and a full team of, they're trying to send things to Fizz. There was nothing, it wasn't the deal that was slowing down the videos. I mean, I think there was maybe some element, but we could not get scripts approved by Fizz, which is like the power, right? The power that be that makes sure that this is what is going to go on the site. And
so that comment may make it sound like that we would be able to utilize those videos with Mocafy, right? Like, I just
at this point,
saying is that
I would actually say the app has changed. Like, we were actually internally saying that we would have to go start over anyways because the app has probably shifted from the time we wrote the scripts. They've been sitting for that long. Like, it's been 16 months since we initially wrote the scripts and started giving them to Comerica to get approved. And so, like, we're I mean, certainly we could offer, because I feel like if you said, yeah, okay, let's do videos, I wouldn't put any money on the table because I don't think they're going to get anything approved to actually be produced, if that makes sense, right? Like, if we started today and they're like, yes, we'll get things approved, we would maybe be able to have videos done by like, I mean, and so as in talking with Casey, it would almost be like, we didn't really say what the videos would be. These days, we could maybe just produce. To your point, Carlene, I don't think that they would translate across. I don't think we'd be able to produce something here that then would. I'm not sure. Maybe that would be the case, and if so, but then would Mocafy approve those videos anyway? Right? Like, there's just so much unknown, and I don't think they would get approved. So it's like, I mean, we could move forward with it, but there was not one time we haven't produced content because they haven't had anything get approved in probably 16 to 18 months.
Follow-up question there, and I'm just going to bring this up so that maybe on other people's minds as well. Because of how long the delays have taken, are we able to approve it with the hopes that they don't execute on it because it has taken so long and that we just run out of time? So it's like we can approve it, but like if we don't get these things approved and like in the queue by February 1st, like that's not on us, like that's on the customer.
We have to make that super clear because it's bitten us in the ass with
Right, I know.
These delays have all been, Scott, these delays have all been on their end, right? For the last
100%. We've been ready every step of the way, ready to go.
So,
and
not to like play devil's advocate here, but we're doing the same thing with PNC right now with Engage. Like, we literally are documenting work that we've done for a customer that we've struggled to get feedback from them, and like there are things that we should own as well. But if that's the case, and I hear you, Carlene, like I just want to make sure we're documenting what we're delivering, and that we can say with confidence, we are waiting for you in writing. Like, here, by this date, we need a feedback. If we don't receive feedback, blah blah blah, right? Like, we just have to be, if we're gonna move forward and approve it, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure we have in writing. It's on them if we don't end up executing or moving forward.
Do we think Mocafy and Comerica are going to go for this idea of both of them paying for the same thing next year? Even though they're basically.
I think Jason understands that, and I think that that's been pretty clear of the conversations that we've been having is that like this bridge year is going to take you so there's no gap for your end users, because that's the goal, right? Like that direct express customer, like that individuals can utilize it. So they, like, and Aaron said this before, it's like we're a business. Like if you guys want to have continuation of delivery, we need to make sure that like it is seamless from January 1st to June 30th, and then July 1, which will switch or whatever the date is.
Which I
And
guess
we're not-
goes
and
back
we're
to
not
this idea of a
charging-
6-month agreement with Comerica.
But we're not charging more, right? We're charging the same amount for the full year, and we're actually going to be doing more work. This is more complicated for us because we are transitioning Comerica off, right? So the whole number is, let's call it 750,000.
Yeah.
Half's coming from Comerica, half's coming from Mocafy in this transition.
What's the, okay, I guess I think I need to understand so that we can make the case to Mocafy of why we're keeping Comerica for a year instead of 6 months. Like what are we going to be doing exactly for Comerica for the year? If the site, we're not, like I said, we're not turning off and turning on a different site, we're transitioning the site from
Well,
one to
and
the
I
other.
think that's what Scott, your point was too, like that it's not going to happen overnight. So essentially, like Comerica is going to be directing traffic to Mocafy, and
This thing is not going to get turned on until November.
I know. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a moot point. I think we have to,
Yeah.
and you put in the chat, Carlene,
We
I
need to
think
protect
annualized, we have to protect ourselves. It's going to take more time. The script review, I was going to chat you, Scott, and then I'm like, I'll take this offline. The script review process alone, we're going to have to stay so tight with both organizations to make sure we stay on target too. We don't waste additional resources, which happened with Fidelity, etc. So anyway, I think annualized makes sense. It's going to take more time than 6 months to move this program. It's a 8-year program that we've had with Comerica. So it protects us from that perspective and them. And from a end user perspective, like there needs to be something in the market that covers them, right? From the direct express perspective. So I guess the other question, if we're targeting July 1st, and Ray, your point of like November 1st, well, if we don't launch till November 1st, is it Comerica's program that's in market for direct express, and like they all know that? Like, what's the thread between Comerica and Mocafy?
The verbiage that I had from Jason, he said that so the last thing that I heard was that they wanted to take the credit of the videos, which I don't even know if they had a number on that, and he asked if they could apply those funds toward funding the static website through September 2025. He said, as we have been informed that the new FA are expecting to enroll people by October 2025. So for me, it feels like he was like thinking November they're done and it starts October. I don't know if that's like Mocafy's understanding, like that it's just sort of, because he just wanted to, it sounds like he wanted to fund their static site through September. So not a full year, but maybe just 9 months. And what I remember Rachel mentioning was, could they just take a 375 contract and then say, well, let's do 300 through September and no videos? I think there's just a few different ways it could go. I feel like I think you could actually say, yeah, we'll do the videos as long as you have, approval by this point, and they won't do it. I don't see any way that those videos move forward if they're waiting for fiscal. If they didn't get it approved before now during all of this transition, I don't see how they're going to have a team that's going to do that. So I would feel comfortable. And if they did miraculously do it, I think we could put some videos together. So
I was just chatting Will a little bit about this on the side, and there's risk to, it sounds like there's risk to Mocafy. I get that Comerica thinks that it's okay to have a crossover, but Mocafy is not under that impression. So I mean, he's free to join if we want him to join. I recognize he's got his very specific opinions about how this should go, but I mean, what do we think about? I have not talked to Mocafy, so I
feel like, and I know Will have very strong opinions in one direction, rightfully so. He's done a lot of work on this deal. I don't blame him. I think if we can, the challenge is going to be managing those two relationships regardless of whatever decisions made here today. There's going to be timelines that are pushed for Mocafy, probably. There's going to be timelines that are pushed for Comerica that we're going to have to extend. I think the annualized 375 gives us a buffer with Comerica. It also benefits Mocafy as a program in market if they end up pushing back their implementation. So at the end of the day, as much as they like don't want that in the market, it's going to benefit them. So I'm inclined, and we've got a good relationship with Comerica. I think we have to honor that, and I think we can still articulate July 1st with confidence, and we have to shift from there. Like, we won't know until we actually get into implementation and how this is going to work with fiscal and Mocafy. Like, there's a little bit of unknown here.
Yeah, I know, it feels like there's a lot of unknown to me. But I mean, if people are okay with it, like, can we just get Will in here so that he can hear exactly what like Comerica's talked to Scott about? And because I think he was also did not know that, which maybe is my bad, that all this Comerica stuff is still happening, like the 3-year discussion and like potential for long-term continued partnership. So it feels like we were first in a place where we couldn't talk to each other because of this weird RFP, and then that continued even though we should have been able to talk to each other once like the RFP was figured out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine, and I think we could easily pull back from a 3-year to a 1-year and just say, like, Jason, we think that it would be in the best interest of like path forward to do 1 year. I will say, like, if we want to bring Will on, I mean, Aaron, I want your opinion on whether or not we have Rachel on as well, to make sure that we have both voices. So
yeah, agreed. Yeah, we can have Rachel overjoin. I know she's in the council meeting.
Yeah.
From Chatner.
Yeah, I'll go. All right, I'm inviting both of them now.
Thanks. Hi, Will. I felt like I was playing telephone, trying to do justice to what you talked to me about yesterday. Sure. And there's a lot of nuances and in all of this.
Happy to chat through it. That background.
Okay, so we've essentially come to a thought of, as you said, like, we want to try and get this Mocafy agreement solidified as soon as possible, and like your suggestion of 300K in year 1, 775 in the out years maintains the ARR of the program overall. And then it sounds like there's a lot of back and forth between Rachel and Scott and Comerica about work that they would like to do around videos and script review, even through like for the next short amount of time through this transition. So I think that's where we're trying to thread the needle between Mocafy and Comerica, knowing that the Mocafy program is slated to actually transition on July 1st, but I mean, how late delayed were we last time when this all happened?
And maybe even just to add to is to catch Will and Rachel up, decision made like 1 year versus 3 year with Comerica. Ideally, it's a 1 year because Mocafy will have the agreement with fiscal moving forward. So ideally, we're kind of setting that program up for future success. I know Rachel, we were like debating whether or not to go back for longer term with Comerica on maintenance. I think there's a lot of unknowns there. So while we're trying to be mindful of the existing Comerica program, we also know that the funding in the future is going to not lit with Comerica. So we're threading that needle as well as we're thinking through.
Yeah, Comerica does have an extension for contract with fiscal for another 3 years. So So, and that's just to make sure the consumer process is smooth. But yeah, after that, definitely.
But there's going to only be one financial education program. There's never going to be two financial education programs in market.
Yeah.
Because it's not a Comerica financial education program that will become a Mocafy financial education program. It's a Direct Express program.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So a couple of things to add here, which are probably new information that the Comerica people just learned as of yesterday here is, or that's I've been made privy to. This is again confidential, but Mocafy is going to start taking over all new cardholders to the program effective July 1. So 6 months from whatever they, I think, effectively Mocafy will be taking over administration of the entire program except for legacy programs, which will get rolled off over the next 2 to 3 years, effective January 3rd. So they're Mocafy BNY. They're going to be basically in charge of the entire thing. They are extending Comerica. I mean, I don't even think it's. I don't think it's reasonable or even something that's I don't even think that that's an option to consider. Max, the only thing that we can consider is a 6-month extension of Comerica, because at that point, all of the new business coming in and all of the programs are going to start getting rolled to Mocafy. So I think it's unlikely that Comerica would agree to that one, and it just practically doesn't make sense. So that's one thing. My other thought on kind of some of this other, I guess, legacy work we've done or not done or didn't deliver for Comerica. To me, I think the better solution is we should probably just acknowledge that that's going to be, if we're doing some more additional work, that's like kind of like one-time revenue, and we should probably just treat it as such. And so if we have like a 6-month or 1-year contract, and that's like it's a project-based contract that we deliver for Comerica, that to me is, I think, that's the path that we should go down. And we could probably work something out with Mocafy if they want to embed that content or whatever in the overall experience. To me, that's the cleanest solution. I just think we want to have this deal for, it'll be 5 years, and then it doesn't even have to go to RFP. It'll get auto renewed for another 5. So it's a 10-year contract at up close to 800,000, but the potential to probably upsell it quite a bit with Mocafy, the way that it's set up, the way that we've structured it. Right now they're not under any obligation to work with us. We have a verbal agreement. We've talked about it, blah 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 blah. But things can go wrong. So I just think I'm of the mind, if we can take that off the table and lock into a long-term deal where we take over running the financial education program for them now, we should do that. Any delay on them taking over us taking over the whole program for them, it's just a time risk. To me, I wouldn't take that risk. I don't think that's smart. So if we want to double dip it, which I don't think is a good idea, to be clear, but if I was going to double dip it and you wanted to extend Comerica for 6 months, and then we could have some quote unquote one-time or non-recurring work for Mocafy for 6 months, we could do that, and then they take over later. I just think you run the risk of us then getting into line iteming shit for Mocafy. I just think that ultimately will result in them negotiating us down on price of the whole thing. So to me, it doesn't seem like a good risk. So my proposition would be, you do a one-time, whatever, 6 or 9 month or year contract for some one-off project work for Comerica for whatever they want us to do.
But also maintenance of the site for the next 6 months, right?
Yeah.
I think that all goes to Mocafy Jan 3rd, when they take over the administration of the entire program. I think everything goes. I think everything that maintenance the site, Comerica is out of that game. And if we want to do some content or something for them, I just think it's cleaner to move it all to them now. That's my 2 cents. I think there's a window to get this done with Mocafy right now, massage that with Comerica.
Well, then how do we, I appreciate that perspective. How do you stay whole? Because it's 700,000 plus, right? Annual contract. So how do you stay whole on that 700,000 in 2025 when we're still going to be maintaining the site, building a new site, transitioning to new customers? Actually, probably more work in the next year than less. So how do you maintain staying whole on that? If
I mean, we could try. I mean, we could try that. I mean, we could go back with the price to 700 or whatever for year one. I just didn't, I had initially communicated that there probably would be a lower price point for them, knowing that they're not getting as much of it. So like, I'm open to trying that, like as an opening salvo, and then them coming back and be like, all right, let's negotiate on what it is.
But is there a site going live January?
Yeah.
There's already a site built, so it just
Sorry,
would be.
Our education will be Mocafy on January 3rd or in July. I was
January 3rd. It's just who's paying for it, right? That's really all that's
There's
all.
not like Mocafy brand. There's no Comerica brand. There's a couple like integration points, right? Will in the programming.
Yeah. So there's no right now. The experience is it's Direct Express experience. It's all I'm suggesting is that starting January 3rd, the person that's paying for it is Mocafy as opposed to Comerica, which they're going to be the ones that are going to be paying for the bulk of this for, the next decade, hopefully. So, I mean, the only content that mentions Comerica in there, there's 7 or 8 of these articles that, mention the features and functionality of the program. And when I met with Mocafy last week, the way I explained it to them is like, hey, for, some period of time, this initial transition, it's going to be the information as it stands now, and then Mocafy and Comerica have not been able to speak. I think they're probably going to start having a meeting later this week or within the next week where they're going to start talking about upgraded features and functionality, things like that. At some point, they will start communicating to cardholders around this use section of cardholders are getting rolled over to Comerica and when, blah, 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 blah. And so there'll be a period of time where there's information around legacy Comerica cardholders and new and being rolled over Mocafy cardholders. And then at some point, it'll be entirely Mocafy information. So Mocafy knows that. We'll basically have to modify, those articles, which are just it's just text, right? Once we know when those communications can go out. So that's really, other than that, like the entire experience will stay the same until at some point, that's probably more like Q3, Q4 of this year, like if Mocafy's like, we want to put a custom moment or something like that in the experience.
So has Mocafy voiced, like, to your point about, like, January 3rd, like, they're the ones funding the program. Like, is that a deal breaker? Because they know that Comerica is the incumbent. They know that this program exists. They know that it's actually probably in their benefit to have that transition be slower than 30 days from now, just like flipping that switch. And I'm sure that there's been work happening in the background, like if they knew that they were going to win the bid, etc. But I don't know, like it's in their benefit too to actually like roll this program over